You haven't been on a Stone Ridge Confab before, as you can tell, this is a very interactive type of session. Instead of us doing a webinar that just shows one angle, one perspective, we really appreciate the involvement from everyone around this topic. If you have questions, it's basically like free consulting. Bill and I have been in the industry for probably a combined over 40 years, to be quite candid. So it's a lot of knowledge that's here, and then I know a lot of the Stone Ridge team as well is on the stream that typically is through LinkedIn, YouTube, or even Twitch for that matter. And we've got chat that we monitor with it as well. So, like I said, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. If you want to badger us, if you want to play Stump the Chump, we are up for the challenge as always. Obviously, we are here to grow as well, and we're really here just to demystify, obviously, the really cool capabilities of the Microsoft solutions when it comes to business systems. So today, obviously, we're focusing more on Dynamics 365 customer engagement apps, but we cover Business Central, Finance and Supply Chain, M365, and even the Azure components, obviously, are as we start using more and more of those inside of our business process enablement inside of organizations. So I guess Bill, kind of with that, like what do we got on cue for today with the customer engagement conversation? What are we going to be covering at a high level for the audience?
Sure. For a high level of what we talk about, when you talk about and you think about uh, Microsoft Dynamics 365 customer engagement, customer experience, everybody, when you usually think about that or we talk about it, everybody's like, oh, it's CRM.
Right?
Okay. Well, yeah, it started with CRM. And people then think CRM, they just think sales. And it's like, well, guess what? Over the years, Microsoft has expanded and grown and done some different things. So I always talk in life cycles or work cycles or flows basically. And from sales, yeah, you're talking the first handshake that you have with somebody at a trade show from a lead all the way through you've sold them, you're taking care of them doing that, you're servicing them, customer service. Maybe you have to dispatch somebody with customer service and field service. And how do you stay in contact and nurture that relationship if they're still a lead or they are an existing customer and you have that communication with them from a marketing standpoint and customer insights and things. So it's the whole, we're going to talk about, I like to call it the operational journey or the how are you interacting or working with your prospects and your clients. Yeah, ultimately you've got to sell them something and you've got to collect money from them.
Yep.
So that's the finance side of things where Scott has talked to you guys, a number of our teams from finance and supply chain or business central that can do it so you can run your business because you can't run it on for free.
Right?
But how's the operational side of how are you taking care of that client and customer? And there's a lot that we want to go through and cover relative to features and functionality, but how does it relate to the business in doing that? I'll give you guys a caveat right off the bat. There's so much there. There's so much to talk about. We're not going to do a demo. If you guys want to see a demonstration of each of these products, please reach out. That's what I do day in and day out. Love to do it more on a one-on-one of your specific industry, your specific organization. We tailor those demonstrations. That's what we do in saying, hey, here's how we can really help you guys. But let's go through it from a little bit higher level, that 30,000, 15,000 foot level of what's there, what can be a part of it, and then how do they work together? How do they work together for ultimately what I hear day in and day out of that customer 360. How do we get that customer 360 view? And how does that even come in from a finance and supply chain or a business central or things to get that view to say, this is what we need to sell to. This is who we know. This is what we know about. And ultimately, Scott talked about it. We've been talking about Copilot and AI for a long time and continue to do it. But if you have these components, yes, if you have the whole platform, then AI can do more for you in that data mining. All the data is in one place, that data mining, those, the Copilot, the agents, all the different things that are coming can surface up really what you need to be more efficient and get you more sales and more revenue, which is obviously the ultimate goal for organizations. So
Right. And Bill, I don't want to steal any thunder because we've looked at your PowerPoint a little bit as we've kind of reviewed it. But I mean, if we really think about the application platform of Dynamics 365, there's really like three platforms, right, from a Microsoft perspective. There's the CE platform, which is Dataverse, model-driven apps, Canvas apps, things of that nature that we typically use to address like sales, field service, and you're going to go through those in more detail. But we also then have like Business Central, which is the ERP for SMB or small and medium business. And then we also have the other perspective here, right? So I don't have it shared, but I'll flip over just really quickly to the screen share that we have. There we go. That's the right one right there. But yeah, just kind of saying that though, I mean, to your point, like when we look at solutions for customers, it's not very common, or it's not as common anymore to just live in one system as an example, right? Instead, data transfers between multiple systems in the dynamic stack to provide like opportunity data which may drive reordering requirements inside of the ERP system, right? But could you maybe talk a little bit about that at a high level here, Bill, to kind of start?
sure. Yeah, really, and what I'm sharing here is as far as what's highlighted or what's circled in red is really those CE applications that we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth. But yeah, as far as driving different things and how you're connecting and the issues or the problems that we're solving for organizations is really those silos. We're talking to a client right now. They said, "Hey, I've got one solution for CRM, competitive solution. We've got our Business Central for finance and operations, which we love. We also have a service solution, and how the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And when you have that whole connection, obviously we're biased, and we say, hey, we want you to choose this whole stack and everything else, but if you have industry solutions or you can do more of these things, the more you have it with the whole platform and what we're showing and what we're providing here, I always think of as well reducing the integrations, having that communication flow for that customer 360 or for that handoff to say, hey, I've sold something. Now when my opportunity is closed one and my quote can turn into an order, and then that order can turn into a sales order over in Business Central or finance and supply chain, and then go take with it and create the invoice and get the accounts receivable and make sure the cost of sales and your T accounts and everything that you need to do are all matched up. Or making sure, I always give the scenario as well, if we all remember when we were kids, the communication stream of the cans. The tin cans are just going from one to the other, of making sure all of that information flows properly and you have that same truth and you're not distorting it. I don't want to say minimize human interaction, but you minimize human error
Yep.
as far as, oh, this person has to type in or we have to double enter here or things like that. Is those connections and how we're able to do it and how we're still able to do it. Yes, is there still an integration or things that we have to do if we're going to connect these apps to Business Central or finance and supply chain? Yes. Is Microsoft making that integration better? Absolutely. And we can leverage the Power BI and the other things that we're hearing from clients, and we have that data stored in pretty much, you got the Azure or the cloud infrastructure and saying, here's where the data is. If the data is from CE or the data is from FNSC or anything else, okay, where do we have to point our Copilot and our AI and our agents and stuff there? There's your learning data. So when it's all about data and it's all about those things, that's why I share this slide. We share the vision and the story of the overall platform, because how it can do it. And then from my side, from the CE side, that will go in is what does it really do from a sales? What can it do from marketing or customer insights and customer service and field service. And how do those flow? How do they flow individually, but how do they flow together
Right.
to really help the organizations?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in the future here, even like once again in Excel, like we're starting to get into use cases where we have Excel, for example, that connects directly to the data and still runs the business logic, for example. Like these are capabilities that I look at and they were introduced 5, 6 years ago, like, oh, that was really cool when that was introduced. But if you're still on an older business system, it like even those like what I call table stake capabilities, they're just huge in terms of what they provide. And then when you even layer more on top of it, such as in the future here, being in a Word document and then grabbing data from Dynamics to then format a table by using Copilot, like it just becomes so much more powerful, like you said, Bill, to actually have these all integrated, all in the same Microsoft stack as a part of it. And to your point, the bias is there for sure, but the bias is there because we see the value. We've actually implemented and we've assisted with customers understanding what that value is. And once again, Bill, you're kind of like me. We want we don't want to just sell something because it looks shiny. We want to sell something because it's impactful, because it helps with the goals of the organization. And from Stone Ridge's perspective, we're here to make you win, right? That's kind of our mission statement basically, is to enable businesses to really succeed depending upon what metric that they have, because some will win with revenue, others will win with efficiency, others win with customer service, right? Those are all capabilities really of Dynamics as we go through this. So Bill, I love what you said there. Tell me more. Let's dig more into your presentation here,
Real
right?
quick before we get off this
Yeah,
slide
yeah,
is, and the wording I love to use when I'm doing demos and talking to clients and prospects is Microsoft talking to Microsoft.
yep,
And I think even we've been talking about supply and finance and supply chain or business central or even the power apps, but go backwards to you were just talking about Word and Excel and Outlook and how you talk about user acceptance, change management,
yep.
those types of things is the more I'm out there, and it is 2025 and I'm still blown away about it, but the more I get out and talking to more prospects and everything else, is the more organizations I still feel are in the 1980s.
Right.
And if we're talking, and we love to talk AI and Copilot and bleeding edge, but I think one of the benefits of talking today and saying, hey, we can help you. We're doing things in Excel right now. And how do we help you? How do we help you with sales and doing that? I've got a prospect right now. They showed me all of their spreadsheets and everything else in the ag industry. And let's get them on sales. Let's get them up to at least 1990 and 2000, and then we can grow and get them into the 2020s and stuff. But that's what I think, that's right from an operational standpoint. That's what the CE and what we'll cover here can help them with.
I love that, Bill. 1990, huh? Huh? I see.
I'm going to age
Right,
myself
rather than say
now, but
1990, I feel yeah, maybe 2010. Well, let's give him a
t-
2010 to start. How about?
yes, yeah, yeah. So, and what we can do. So, let's go into. So we shared enough as far as kind of a background, but the different things we're going to get into this. I think it's great that we'll get into the individual slides. And really, one of the things I love and I leverage a lot still. And you guys, as I said, we're happy to do demonstrations and things like that. But Microsoft Learn is a wealth of information for anybody out there, that Microsoft goes and shares it. But when we go and we talked about really four main business applications that are a part of it. There's another one in here, just in fact of time, that I don't have in here, is the contact center. You
Yep.
get a little bit of that with customer service, but when we think of sales, and I go back to that word of workflow or life cycle or whatever, you think of sales, you think of CRM. You think of, okay, so here's the initial one. Here's the one that everybody thinks of, version 1.0 and everything else, but starting with a lead and starting with how do we have that interaction and how do we turn that prospect into a client of ours that we can sell and what we can do. And exactly when you're thinking of sales is what sales is in there. but there's extra components, there's extra things. And when we're thinking of efficiencies, and not just the efficiencies from AI, but if we're doing lead management, and I always also say too with clients and saying, how do you walk, crawl or walk before you run, before you really get moving? And this is really it. It's how are we starting off and saying lead management or marketing lists. How do we from this component, quote unquote, simple marketing, simpler marketing, rather than the customer insights I'm going to show in a little while.
Hmm.
But what can we do that? There's that account 360, that customer 360, that account 360. How do we get the most information that we can about our customer so that in for some of you that might have been on the wave 1 release or done some different things, there's agents that are coming that can research and prioritize and enable and saying, here's the clients that you need to talk to because some economic event in an industry, because of buying habits, because of this. We have another client that we're talking to right now that's engaging or immersed in AI to say, we don't just want to go and get in the car and say, how are you doing? Having the salesperson say, how are you doing? No, we want to be proactive and saying, hey, you ordered a bunch of this stuff 8 months ago. It's fallen off. Why is that?
Yes.
Have you gone to a competitor? Have you done some things? How does the data we collect help with that? And how does solutions like this from a customer engagement help with that as well? So that sales engagement, that 360-degree view look, and then obviously opportunity management. We got to know where our opportunities are. Where are they doing? We do it once a week here at Stone Ridge and saying, hey, what's hot? What's cold? How do we continue to move them successfully through the funnel to get to a win and help organizations? If we happen to lose, what happened with the loss? And all of those things that you're data mining and doing. The within dynamic sales, it has quoting. It has quoting with products, so you can do a little bit of service. There's a good quoting engine in there. And in deciphering or talking with clients to say, hey, should we leverage this? Could we leverage this? Or are we more complex and where we need a CPQ? And I've done both, and I've talking to prospects right now, and in looking at and compare and contrast and all that. But I think with price lists, with products, with quoting, with different things that are there, there's a pretty good, robust quoting solution. So the value add of being able to leverage that or leverage it initially, or there's industries that say, you know what, we do quoting outside the system. That's fine. That's great. But because of document management and SharePoint, those that we can still integrate or we can still bring that document and share it and say, here, it's attached to this opportunity. Oh, this is what we quoted, or this is what we did, or what we shared. Scott, you were talking about Word. How do
Yep.
we convert something into Word that they can convert and things like that?
Yep.
So helping with the opportunity forecast management that managers all want to do. And then how do you, going back to the usability, ease of use for users, different things from the mobile app to the Outlook to the sales Copilot for sales with the Outlook connection, and saying the salespeople hate entering stuff. I mean, you ask any salesperson, they hate doing data entry, but the managers don't know what's going on unless they do some data entry. So how does the system help you with that? And saying attach an email, then the whole communication going back and forth is in there. The timeline, you go on vacation, you unfortunately there's a separation with the organization, the data's still there and you can have it, somebody else can pick it up and run with it. So that, and then ultimately all of this data that we're talking about for Copilot or for AI or just in Power BI reports can be surfaced up so that the managers and the C-level can make pivot decisions for the organization.
Yeah, Bill, we got Leah said, love all the really specific life examples Bill's providing on how businesses are see value in the use of the product. There's so many possibilities, and Leah, you nailed it. I guess, Bill, kind of to just back up for a second too. Like if we really think about it, we kind of led with like remember Dynamics 365 sales is like the customer relationship management or the CRM acronym that we always use, right? And candidly, like the CRM app used to be itself separate, right? Meaning it was like the first Microsoft product that I think that they built from the ground up, right? Compared to the other Dynamics products they acquired. So GP they
Sure.
acquired, obviously from Great Plains, Navision or Nav or Business Central as we call it now. It was Navision DamGuard. Exapta was owned by Navision, so when they acquired them, they got that business system. And then Solomon as well, which became SL, was also an acquired property, right, as part of that. Whereas Dynamics 365 sales, the heritage of that really started entirely inside of Microsoft and evolved over time to basically now become Dynamics 365 sales and those details, right? So
Correct.
that's I thought that was a pretty unique perspective here because like it's expanded even beyond sales now, right? And it just does a really good job at that. And then the only other thing, Bill, was you nailed it. Like our sales team members, they're fantastic at entering in data. What are you talking about? They know exactly what they're doing all the time. But you're right. Like I remember selling back in the day, like we'd sell Dynamics Nav or Navision back in the day, and we would do CRM like lead and opportunity management inside of the ERP system. And I'll tell you, sales team members despised interacting with that user interface because it was an accounting perspective. It was all
Sure.
this structure that had to be there where they couldn't quickly generate a quote from Word, for example. Whereas Dynamics 365 Sales really focuses on making that experience the best then for a sales team, right, as they go through that process. So I'm glad that you kind of highlighted that because once again, that is the reality. Software, it's great that it has the features, but the adoption from a cultural perspective of software also needs to typically be considered for an organization. So it's not just the software, it's the people that are using the software. And if they don't like using the software, no matter how great it is for features, well, that's not a really good thing for a business in my mind.
Yeah, the other ease of use, and we've talked about it and we said it, is okay, maybe I'm a manufacturer's rep and I'm going to talk to a distributor that I work with.
Yep.
And I like to sit across the table from them and talk to them and say, hey, guess what? I can create a view of here's the apps or here's the opportunities that I'm working with you or the clients or different things. Get that view. Guess what? Export it into our favorite solution that is Excel and sit across the table and say, "Hey, here's these are the things we're working on together and here's where they are." And when oh, you got to add one in or we got to up that one to hot from warm or no, that one was closed lost that people, when you talk about usability or ease of use for those sellers, just, yep, we talked about Word, but we think about Excel and the other user interface. You don't want them to export it and then all of a sudden use it Excel, then you're not using CRM. But in certain instances, certain meetings, certain things like that use case of a manufacturer's rep sitting across from a distributor that they work with or a partner, and hey, let's look at this list real quick. That's a great way to do that as well.
Yep.
So
Yep. Nailed it.
yeah.
Got a couple comments. Joe made sure I was correct. Thank you, Joe. CRM was the first Microsoft all up product, which is pretty cool in the Dynamics community here. So, Rob, appreciate you posting. We can open an invoice in Word and then analyze this document inside of the ERP system. Find all invoices from the customer. Decide by looking at the document how to handle it. You nailed it, right? And even then, Bill, like there's even native integrations on like Word templates that you can use inside of Dynamics 365 Sales. So you can have like it's really common for us for our master services agreements or even our statements of work where depending upon the product that we're going to be implementing or the type of work that we're going to be doing, we'll use a slightly different template for a statement of work and we have those then inside as Word templates that then take the product details and then plug it into that template. So yeah,
Yep.
once
Yep.
again, this is all about
Templates
the
are.
full stack capabilities. If you're using Google Docs, you're not going to have that capability. Which, like I said, I'm not here to, I'm not here to say go with Microsoft. I'm just telling you here's the reality of the situation. It's not where
Yeah.
we can just snap in WordPerfect back in the day, or we can snap in all these other applications, right? If you're going to buy the Microsoft product, they usually work better together, is what it really boils down to. So this is
Yeah.
great, Bill. What else
Correct.
do you have here for us?
So the next one that we go in as we think about it, um, so if you're going to sell to your clients and you're going to do some different things, you think about how do we market to them. And Microsoft, in their words of how they like to word things or put a labels on them, is it used to be Dynamics marketing, but now it's customer insights. Is how do we stay engaged? And how do we stay engaged with current clients? How do we stay engaged with leads that need to be nurtured? How do we just stay engaged in that? Let the system do some of the work. Yes, the sellers should get on the phone and check in or do that or follow up in certain ways. And we can do that with tasks and activities that are a part of sales. But one of the big things with customer insights is saying, okay, how do we create those lists? How do we create those certain audiences? Who are we selling to? Which industries? How do we message that a little bit more tailored to them? Because that's how people are responding. They want your clients and prospects want you to know that you know them. You know their industry, you know who they are. I want to feel like I'm the only client you have. When you know we've got thousands and whatever what we need to do and everything else that you have, but I want to feel like I'm very special. So how do we do that? We can do that with customer insights and creating those lists so we can target those marketings of their contacts or leads or other segments that we need to do. And then how do people like to be communicated? Via email, via text messages. There's a lot more. I'm starting to hear more and more of, hey, we got this texting solution, or we've got this text communication of this is how we're reaching out. I'm getting reached out a lot more by texting. Actually, I'm just having some contractors take a look at my roof, and I got three
Text
different text
messages, right?
messages of confirming your appointment and thanks for reaching out. And I was like, wow, okay, not an email anymore. They know it's a cell phone. So, how do we do that? But then, how do we put them into a journey? How do we put them into something that's it's if that yes or no. I clicked on something. I clicked on the email, or no, I didn't. I let it go, or I engaged this way, or I attended this event. What's the behavior? We always talk about what's the behavior of that lead, of that client, and then sending them down those different paths. And the days of your IT team or your developers or coders of doing these if then statements for you to help you with that, I don't want to say are going to the wayside, but we go back to the citizen developer or the marketing people to say, hey, you can go ahead and put these blocks. And if the answer is yes, do this. If the answer is no, do that. Where it helps you in creating that journey and that what should we do next? Oh, they've really interested. They've clicked. They need a phone call from a salesperson
Yep.
and follow up and set up that meeting. Or no, they're just sitting idle. Okay, keep sending them this or try this and what you need to do. And then it also has if you do whole different interactions with your customers from an event or a trade show or something. Our quick plug as far as we got our connect coming up and interacting with people, that's a great example of how you can manage registrations and who's going to come and who's attending what, or if you're doing a whole physical face-to-face event of how can we maintain the sponsorships and the logistics and the hotels and things like that, that you can do that. And then obviously going back to the end, once you go through that life cycle, what's the effectiveness of it? What is the Power BI reports? Or on the individual records, the marketing effectiveness. How much have they clicked open or different things? I know it's a smaller screen, but the 46%, or they've reached and done this and they've done this, and all part of their behavior so you can direct them and communicate them in something that's more tailored and really effective and powerful as you interact with your clients and your prospects.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about this from my perspective, Bill, is that, customer insights is all about like just diving deeper into marketing automation, right? Like it really is all about that. And what's interesting to me is that if you have Dynamics 365 sales, you can start with some of the basic capabilities in marketing, right? So it's not uncommon to have a list, for example, that you maintain to then blast some emails around, right? But when you start looking at like customer insights, it allows just for more complexity in your marketing journey, right? And your own internal journey. I know we use journeys to say, for example, when a customer engages, we want to send an email. We want to see if they click through to that. We want to track what they navigate to on the website, for example. If they go to this page, we want to have this action with it, right? It's more complex basically in what we can do to provide that experience then for the customer. But what's really interesting about this is the fact that there is a deeper marketing application where you could start with sales, for example, and then you could move into the marketing as you need more of that automation and more of that capability in terms of building out those journeys, identifying the channels of information you can interact with, refining dynamic segments, for example, so that way you don't have to manually add them to a list. Instead, they're just taken based off of the product attribute that they purchased, or based off of even like can't you even take like external data, Bill, and like kind of add
Sure.
it to it as well, where it'll enrich it, so to speak, as a part of it? Is that's part of it as well?
Yeah, as far as one of the components, and I'm really talking about the functionality or the journeys,
Right?
but it's that data component, exactly what you're talking. And when we're talking about these different solutions and the data repository, but bringing in that data and saying, how do you quote unquote automatically add them to those lists and making it easier? I'm not, my marketing people, marketing interns, whatever, aren't add this one to the list, add this one, or pull your list or whatever. How does the system help you do that? And then go ahead and do it. Or deciding, okay, the people we just added, wait a minute, let's wait a month or two, then we'll send it. So the timing of when that happens, but letting the solution help you decide and understand who should be added. And that's I don't want to say that's even before AI,
Right?
but what you can do and what Scott geeks out at and everything else is really how do we really take AI and even enhance that even further with the
Right.
agents and things.
Right,
So
right. I'm pointing at the Copilot,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
it's
Nathan posted
it's
on here too. Yeah, don't forget marketing to customer profiles and integrated systems, right? So, yeah, you nailed it, Nathan. Appreciate you posting. So, yeah, I mean, once again, the cool thing about it, the data that we have, like if you start with sales, like let's say you start with marketing or the customer insights, when you create accounts, contacts, leads, and all that data, it's now in both applications because they live inside of Dataverse, which stores that information. And if you want to build custom apps or Copilot enablement on those specific use cases, like Bill mentioned, you can do that as well. So it's a really cool capability. There's one other post, just real quick. Rob said, when you meet with anyone, record it and then prompt against it to do more with these clients based on the sentiment of the conversation. Yeah, don't steal all his thunder here, Rob. Bill's
that's
going to
all right.
probably cover that a little bit more with the customer service. But yeah, once again, like I'm trying to stay away from the AI enablement here. But if you think about like journeys, even Bill, like one of the features that they added is that you can go into Copilot and then describe what you want that journey to be, and it'll build the journey for you, even though it's event based, just simple drag and drop to say, do this, then this type of a thing. It makes it a little bit easier than if you've never used it before to at least then, build just really quickly some type of journey that has really natural language that you use to describe what that journey should be. So once again, there's way more in AI enablement here that I could get into, but we're not going to nerd about that right now. Let's stay focused, obviously,
That's
on our next step here, Bill. What
uh,
we got next year?
so the next one that we're going to go to is customer service.
There we
So
go.
you go and you guys are talking, and it's great. Is we've gone and sold somebody, and now we want to make sure that that customer stays happy. Here at Stone Ridge, one of our values is customer centric. We want to keep them going. We want to have make them happy. Make sure we're responding accordingly and everything else. So you think about that, and I kept talking about it, and I keep talking about it till I'm blue in the face. Is that account 360? What are we doing with that customer 360? What do they have? What do they have going on? I think it's key now, and now that we're bringing more into the fold, and as I think about some clients we're working with and saying, hey, we've got service that we're doing at this specific client, and their sentiment is they're really pissed off because something's really broken or broken recently or whatever, but we know they have 5 different assets or things that we're going to go do. I'm Mr. Seller. I'm going to go walk in and, oh, I know I can sell them this and this asset. I'm going to walk in. Well, when you've got them and you've got them all combined, you go in and go, whoa, wait a minute. The service team is working with them. Walk in on eggshells, or make sure you know, hey, all right, you guys are pissed about this. We're working on this. This is how we're helping you before we can really help you with this. Or maybe I hold off on the meeting for a week or two and say, all right, we just resolved this. Now let's help you with something else.
Yep.
So it's really that hand holding, because one of the clients, as I said, that I've went to was their service department and their sales team are siloed and they don't know, and they're a very big selling engine as far as what they're doing, and they'll walk in the front door and didn't know that the service team was just out there 2 days ago, and it could have been a good experience, it could have been a bad experience. You don't, but they should know that. Wait a minute, your tech was just here. Oh, really? Oh,
Right.
okay.
Right.
And no, no, wait a minute. It's your same organization. Don't you know that? How can the system do that? And just getting that visibility. So as you interact with those existing clients, I think that's one of the key things with customer service is you talk about there's the term omni-channel, all the different ways that you can interact. The customer can interact with you. They can pick up the phone and call you. They can email in. They can do chat. Maybe we're doing texting now. Maybe they're putting in there and saying, I'm really pissed off, @ on X or on Facebook or whatever that you hear, and go, wait a minute, we got to go grab them and resolve that, because it tarnishes the organization's reputation.
Right.
And they don't want to do that. There's always all those adages. It's years or long time to build up trust, and that can be broken down in the matter of seconds, minutes, what have you, very fast. So how do you resolve that and do that? So when we think about that, we think about omnichannel, or the channels in which we can communicate. But from a customer service, having that interaction, turning it into what we'll call a case or service ticket or what have you, and then knowing the client, depending on your industry and what you do, is if they have a contract or a service level agreement, SLA as they talk about, and saying, hey, this is a really strong, really big client. They're on our platinum contract. We better address them quickly. I don't want to say, hey, don't worry about those bronze contracts or things, but jump. When this one yells, how high? Yes, Mr. Customer, how high do you want me to jump? Because they give us millions and millions in revenue. So understanding that, making sure as those calls or those cases are created that they're queued to the right people, that they're sent to the direct person, so that those people can address them quickly or see them on their dashboards or their alerts. Say, okay, Bill's an expert in this one, Scott's an expert in this one, he leads this queue or this queue, and it's a queuing. That's a lot of times, and I talk about contact center, but those call centers, those different things where you have 5 individuals handling something, and those keys are important when somebody's out of the office on vacation or busy with other cases and things. So being able to do that.
Yep.
And then how can customer service really help those human agents, those human people with a knowledge base, with teams collaboration? Okay, this one is escalating to our engineering team, and the engineers can help us. The next tier 2 support or help as far as if we have a problem with something. Talk a little bit about service scheduling. I think we'll see that more in the field service, but doing that, I even think of, and if I didn't have it in here, but self-service.
Right.
And you think about the idea, we have customer service in Dynamics, but you leverage, here we go again, leveraging more of the platform, power pages, the portals, the different things. How can a client go in there? They might shoot you a chat or say, hey, did you see this? Did you look in our knowledge base? Did you search it? Here's the resolution to your problem. Oh, great. Or I found it myself. I didn't even have to call in or whatever. People love to be self-sufficient in everything that they do. I'm learning that more and more. I have a 3-year-old that wants to be self-sufficient in a lot of what he does.
Going on 18
So,
already, right?
yes, yes. So it's that self-sufficiency and all the different things you can do. That's really key. And then once again, you see it at the end, the reporting, the data, the different things. But the other small component of that, or part of it, is how do we get that feedback from the customers? Customer voice,
You're right.
those surveys. Everybody gets surveys. If you're really happy, you love to fill out a survey. If you're really pissed, you love to fill out a survey. But one of our metrics in being customer centric here at Stone Ridge, and we've seen it, is what are those customer ratings that we have? Scott help me out. It was like NPR
Net
scores or
promoter, right? NPS, right?
yes,
Yep.
net promoter scores and things that you want to measure so you know you're doing good customer service and you're really helping your clients. And a lot of times with customer service or this part, it's how can we help them? How can we resolve quickly over the phone or remotely or what we want to do as compared to, oh, no, we escalated. We need to go see it. And that's field service, and that'll be the next one. Just my quick segue, but we'll talk about this one a little bit. But how do we help and resolve this through cases and things from a customer service standpoint?
Yeah, and customer service, Rob posted as well. You nailed it, Bill. Customer service is empowered by technology and the ability to break down silos, and I 100% agree with that. I think the other thing to kind of contemplate here is the fact that, you know, I will say I'm the biggest abuser when it comes to customer service based systems. I call up a bank or I call something and I can't stand those automated systems. I want like I'm not calling to go through automation. I'm calling because I need to talk to a person. And usually if it's something that is on the portal, for example, usually it's all thought through where I can do all those types of things. And so when I'm calling, it's like it's something bigger that I need to be able to do that. But I will say that with the modern systems that I've noticed as they've kind of introduced those, they have different tactics now that assist with it that if they work, they're great. An example would be the callback. It's a fantastic idea. The horrible thing about it is that they'll call you once and never call again, or your phone won't ring and then it misses it. And it's like, well, why don't you just add like a link or something else like that that also sends like a text message or an email that says, hey, we tried to call you for the next hour or 2 hours. If you click on this link, we'll prioritize you in the queue immediately. Like you could do things like that that would make it a little bit easier for that customer experience because you're trying to address something, but the moment you fail at it, and I will tell you, I have switched different types of companies I've interacted with because of that exact issue. Because then I've got to call up again, wait 20 minutes to be able to click on the button or say, call me back. Like, you got to really think about that interaction, right? And if your customer service managers aren't looking at the analytics around that in terms of the feedback loop that occurs with it, I mean, that can be a really negative thing really quickly. And then the only other thing I just want to mention is like from a customer service perspective, like these channels are awesome for being able to unify the interaction. And longer term, I feel like from an AI enablement, an example would be like with service tickets and case management, there's going to be agents that are going to be monitoring that are going to be prioritizing it in a triage fashion for service tickets that are going to be part of our customer service app. We're going to have the ability, for example, for you to take a bot or an agent and put it on your website so that they can then interact directly with Dynamics data. And we can do that technically even right now. So once again, having customer service based capabilities inside of your organization makes that experience so much better, but you got to do it right. It's not just the technology and application. Leaders need to think through how would they feel if they're in the customer's shoes calling in to interact with a potential issue. And remember, start with the business process and then align the technological requirements for it. But the cool thing here is that customer service really makes it I don't know, easier to really react then and make those more personalized experiences for customers, Bill, in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think you're good. And you're like me, and I'll say I
Yeah.
use the word, I'm more of an old soul. I'd love to go and physically talk to somebody on the phone or walk in,
Yep.
as compared to my niece who's in high school, or you get the younger generation, you get those millennials or the next one and say, I don't want to talk to somebody. I don't want to talk to somebody on the phone. I want to text them. I want to chat with them. I want that a little bit more of a barrier or anonymity as much as you can, but still knowing who they are. of interacting with them and doing that. And that's why in customer service there's those different channels. But
That's
yes, the
awesome.
leaders need to think about that of, hey, are we handling our 80-year-olds and our other ones and our 60-year-olds, but are we also handling our 20 somethings and our 18-year-olds? And are we giving all of those customers, if we're a bank or those types of organizations, in helping what they need to do?
So you
So
just made it really simple. Make sure you've got customer insights so you know your audience and then
it's
use that to help drive your customer service implementation, right? So nailed
absolutely,
it. Nailed it.
absolutely,
Love it. Love it. All right.
and all the sentiment. So any comments from the team on that one?
Basically, Carly, unify the interaction. Great way to put it, Scott. Love it. Thank you. I feel personally attacked, Bill. Carly. Sorry, Carly. We're trying to be kind here.
It's all right.
All right. What do we got next?
So
Field
the
service.
last one that we have, and I kind of segue a little bit into it, is we do the customer service. How can we help them? Help an organization really over the phone, or what we need to do. Maybe even now, and with customer service it's not on here, but or with field service, that we think about the smart assets. And some organizations, some individuals have those sensors. And can they call customer service remotely, reset something, do some different things, and do that before they have to send or roll a truck? If they need to roll a truck, then they look in customer service and
Yeah,
what they need to be doing there. Now,
Bill.
going back to Scott's thing. Yeah,
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, I apologize, Bill. We call those sassets, right? They're sassy assets.
Sassy assets.
That's
There you
the
go.
worst joke I've ever made. So continue. Sorry.
Sassy assets. That's all right.
Right, right.
But I'm not going to correct you here fully, but I will give some historical insights. You guys were talking about CRM, or customer engagement, pretty much built out by Microsoft rather than buying the GP and the Solomon and the Navision. This one, I will tell you, was a purchase,
Right.
field service, and it's part of my career and where I went and being with different partners is the acquisition of an old company, no longer there, called Field One. They built this solution on top of CRM. So they used that technology and that platform, but they saw the vision in it and everything else. And Microsoft, and what they needed to do, said, hey, they did a great job. Let's bring it in house and let's us go ahead and enhance it. And that's been since it's 9 years now,
Right.
2016.
Right.
Um, and in that time, in Microsoft, in um, their R&D and what they've done, rebuilt some different things, rebuilt the schedule board, which is really the heart of it, so you can schedule other entities and other components. So when you're talking about the overall systems and working together and saying, hey, what if I wanted to create an entity and schedule sales visits that rather than other things? You can do that, and thinking the platform that's a part of it, or I need to schedule maybe this types of service for things where I had service scheduling on another one. So really thinking about that and how those all work together and what's there, but how they brought that in and continue the customer interaction and customer engagement. With this, I always say, and this is that kind of one things I love, and really kind of my expertise from going back to '03, being part of an ISV that did field service and came out of the construction and mechanical contracting world, is I always say this is the work order life cycle. And service ticket, work order, what have you. How does it get created? How does it get created initially? And with this, so I talked about a case or customer service, we have to roll a truck. Case to work order can do that. Or you'll notice in creation on the front end, opportunities, opportunity to work order. We just sold something. We need to go and install it. We have to send somebody to go do that installation. All of that creation, or the start of the work order, just like we can manually create it, we can create it now with uh, Copilot for field service, create it from an email directly. However, all of those different ways to start the process from the work order side, and then how do you get it out to the field? So it's create, schedule, and then how do we enable those technicians? The scheduling, I always said that's the heart of it and what it can do, and how it's smart. It's I don't want to say it's always been smart, but a manual schedule assistant in matching those technicians that have the availability, are located close, have the right skill set, those things that are available. But how, once again, Scott's favorite AI Copilot,
Hmm.
how that can help with it, how we're now seeing on the work order or even an email, book now. We can, oh, here it is, surface it up real fast. Here's the tech that can go do it. How can we make that quicker, more efficient? How can we make the system do it? If we're good and it's maybe not one of those platinum ones that we want to double check, even though you can say for this account, just use Bill because that's their favorite tech and we want to keep them happy, even if Bill's not available until next week. Don't send John. He pissed him off the last time. So those types of things that you can do when we're thinking of scheduling, and then from the scheduling to the mobility, and with the mobility of bring your own device, bring your own, if it's an iPhone, if it's an Android, what have you. Yes, you can do that with the sales app as well, but the real key in the industry in field service now is how do we do that with offline. I'm in industries, maybe I'm in the middle of a hospital where they're like, hey, no cell phone coverage, we don't want to interact with all the machines. Or I always like the one, I'm an oil rig, I'm out in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and I've got to do, before I fly out there on my helicopter and whatever, I'm downloading the work I have to do for the next couple days or week. I have it all there. And then once I put it all in, when I get reconnected, it'll upload and do that. So those types of things, you see things, and I put it on here, mixed reality, remote assistance, as you've got those junior techs and communicating with the senior techs. But then how do we engage? This one is how do we engage a little bit more with the portals and the self-service that you have? There is self-service in scheduling the tech or having the system help you with that. I like this scenario, and people were always talking about how can I see my tech and when they're going to arrive. If you've ever called your favorite
Pizza.
cable pizza, there you go, Pizza Domino's, I think they have it,
Yeah, yeah.
cable company, what have you, when are they going to be here? They give you that 2 hour window, but hey, guess what, we're on our way. Being able to do that and see that and surface that up for those clients, so not just business to business, but even the business to business they might want to know as compared to the business to consumer. And then there's that slide again, or that component of how do we do it from a reporting in Power BI and add that efficiency of, hey, is Bill's getting 5 work orders done in a day where Scott's only getting 3? How do we need to coach him up, and what do we need to do there? Or what are we do? Are we doing really
God
good with
dang,
first
Scott.
time fix rate and things
Right,
like that?
right.
So that's really when we talk about it and we think of all of the different applications and how they connect, hopefully giving you guys a vision of how do they all connect and how do they do, but what field service can do and how it can help.
Yeah, I'm just thinking through this a little bit as well, Bill, like field service. Like I know we look at it like usually like products, techs that do installs, but like you can even use it for even like service scheduling at a very basic level for like a services oriented business where basically like you come in and you want to have a calendar and you want to do like let's say you've got a services business that has all these different types of capabilities that you could use. Well, you could use that to help automate selecting resources, for example, that could do that work and just use work orders without products, but with, service level take type capabilities. Other things to kind of know, like the installation techs and things of that nature. Like we've seen this at like doors and furnaces. So HVAC as an example, like it works really well for those given scenarios too, where like natively you've got a portal that you can have that Domino's pizza tracker type thing that was kind of back in the day that was really kind of cool when it first came out, but you can now do that as well with your business if you have to dispatch people to go through and do that. And then finally, Bill, like you said, the investment around this. So what I found really interesting is back in, yeah, it was 2016, because 2016-17 is when the finance and supply chain solution went with Project Rainier, where AX turned into basically finance and operations at the time, right? And what was really interesting about it is that that was during Microsoft's cloud enablement, where they were focusing on mobility and all these different new workloads that they were tackling inside of the business system space. And what was really cool is when all of a sudden, like, we'd always have to use a third party solution for field service, like Field One. There's a couple others that were there, and there's a couple that still technically exist as well. But what we did is once we started seeing that field service was native inside of the application, it just made such a different story, and so much more capabilities were incorporated to be able to address full life cycle scenarios for manufacturers even. So as an example, you're a manufacturer, you sell a particular product that you then install potentially, and then you know what, you've got a service level agreement that you have where you're billing them for basically a monthly uptime that you're going to maintain. And then from there, you dispatch techs to go do the preventative maintenance for it, and you do all that type of work with it. So it made that, I don't know, it feels like it's a pretty bow on top of the package then in that situation, because there's so many businesses out there that at the time and are still transitioning to it, where they'll sell the product and service it, and some of them even, Bill, they rent it now. Like it's like hardware as a service versus software as a service, where field service becomes really critical to that, because then you've got to do the maintenance and make sure everything is running. Otherwise, you've got to basically give them a credit for that month of usage that they potentially lost. So once again, I think field service has been a great capability. I know there's been some struggles on licensing typically with this, right, that you kind of work through with it, but that as well has gotten so much better now with the subcontracting license level that's there, and it just makes it a lot easier to interact basically with these systems. So great
It's
overview,
getting hot. I
right?
will tell everybody, it's there's a number of opportunities I'm working on here that, and it's those we're talking to a number of existing clients that are on FNSC, that are on Business Central,
Yep.
that are looking to add this component, and it's great. And I love to talk to it and be a part of it, and it's so yeah. Take of anyone and existing clients that are watching this, new prospects, it's a great pairing.
And
Yes.
just double down on that. So back in the day, service management type capabilities or field service capabilities were usually inside of the ERP app, right? So
Hmm.
inside of finance and supply chain and AX, we've got service objects and we had service orders that we could do. Inside of Business Central, we had the same concept with it. I would never, well, I shouldn't say never. That's kind of black and white. It's never like that, right, in business systems. But I would strongly advise to not implement, for example, Business Central Service Management. Could it do it? Yeah. Could you build something around it for a small department? Absolutely. That's why I kind of stop and I'm like, yeah, there's probably going to be some scenarios for it. But if you want the best in class, if you want the reasonable cost, if you want, for example, the expanded capabilities that you're going to grow into for a true field service organization, I would always look at field service and then use the integration for the business system with it from an ERP perspective, because of all that great capability that's native to it. So pretty cool and good to see here, Bill. It's really great functionality to cover.
Yep. Absolutely.
What do you got next? Those are the four primary
Those are
apps,
the
right?
ones.
That's
We're near the top of the hour here and keeping everybody's time and stuff. So I
yep.
appreciate the time. Hopefully you guys have got a better view and understanding on the CE family of business applications. Once again, I'll reiterate, if you wanted to, I know we didn't get into the product, but you want to see it, we're always here, happy to provide demonstrations, walk into it, get into it, understand your needs, tailor it a little bit, and really get into it and show you what's possible for your organization as we share all of these.
Yeah, Bill, you did a fantastic job. Really appreciate the overview. Once again, it just, like I said, let's step back. We're talking about all these co-pilot enablement type capabilities. knowing what the applications do inside of the customer engagement apps, and knowing as well that copilots can automate all these processes now inside of here is just a really powerful proposition. So really appreciate you going through that. I guess, team, just so we can kind of button this up, we've got obviously some more topics that we're going to be covering in 2 weeks from now. Make sure to check out basically the link that I'm sure Carly and team will post inside of chat here, that basically state then what our next sessions are going to be. But as we keep this cadence going every 2 weeks, if you've got any suggestions on content that you would like to cover in Stoneridge Confab, please, please, please reach out to us and let us know. We're really eager either to do a one-on-one demonstration with you on how our solutions can address really your business needs, but also we want to talk about stuff that you want to talk about. So if you're curious on any of those capabilities, let us know. We've got a team that will definitely jump and jump higher than you expect to try to get that taken care of. So I guess with that, Bill, thank you again for your time. Team, thank you for being on. And for everyone else, have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now. Goodbye.
See everybody. Thanks.